to my lockdown library. This is a really small room in my house that Ruth will know I've been working on for years to make it into a library. And you know what, actually the sort of library I'd love to have would be like one in Downton Abbey in a big manor house. I'd love one of those ones where you have a ladder that you have to climb up to get the books. But you know what, that's not really going to happen. So I've got my my wallpaper behind me, which is a complete sheet. And I've got my bookshelves around me. And like many of you, I have been doing lots of recorded lessons. And I've been doing quite a lot from this little room here when I'm not in school. And what I love about it is that I can read to the children. I can actually reach my little, because I can reach everything in this room. Everything is reachable in here. I can reach across my bookshelf and I can pick out a book. And it just is a kind of a way of, it's just really a kind of way of really connecting with the children. You know, normally story times in my class are a really special time. At the moment, it's really strange and we can't do it. So just, you know, them seeing me in my home, sometimes with a little friend with me, and picking books from my shelf. It's just kind of a way of sort of keeping up that sort of relationship. So, before we start, I'll just show you this. What's life without a little adventure? And a really good friend of mine bought me this. And actually, that's kind of how I've got to be in here tonight. I'm a bit of an adventurer. Any of you who know me will know that I didn't really ever intend to be doing social media stuff. But it kind of happened. And it's something now that's really grown. So I hope some of you are on the Keeping Early Years Unique Facebook page. If you're not, please come on over. I do a lot of bits and pieces on Twitter as well. And I'm just kind of branching out into Instagram. And I have to send a massive thank you out to Liz Pemberton, who I think is here, Aaron Bradbury, and Hannah Atkinson, another lady as well called Debbie from Keeping Early Years Unique, who are sort of helping me, sort of trying to get to grips with this because, yeah, it's a whole new world. But anyway, welcome to Mrs. B's Early Years Book Club. And let me tell you a little bit about kind of how I got here, really. So books are really, really important to me. And I've grown up loving books, and books got a very special place in my heart. And I think it was last week I was training some practitioners from Sheffield in early years maths, which is something else I do, as well as teaching, reception. I run training. And I had the lovely comment from one of them, which was about how my training kind of brings together the research and the theory and practical ideas. And actually, I feel really privileged. And although it is really hard work being in the classroom and doing training, it's really important to me to actually practice what I preach. You know, if I'm coming and training people and speaking, and the beauty of it is, although I've been working in early years for absolutely years, I am still learning all the time. I'm just developing my ideas. So when I find really great books, and when something really amazing happens in my class, I often kind of share it with people. And that, her sort of saying that to me about how it sort of brings it all together, I thought, you know what, I want to do something on Instagram. I want to do something to help people, to bring a kind of, to bring not only books to life, but bring maths to life. So, and then I saw yesterday on Instagram a post from Cozy, and I love Cozy Direct. And their post said, I've got it written up here so I can read it out to you. Children fall in love with books because of memories made when they snuggle up and read with someone they love. And that really struck a chord with me. And you know, right now, those of you who know me from Keeping Early Years Unique will know that we are doing a lot of campaigning at the moment. You know, the early years reforms really aren't what they should be. I'm very heavily involved in Birth to 5 Matters, which I hope a lot of you are getting involved with. And I thought, you know what, there's so much talk from the DFE about what is learned from books. You know, what is learned from books? Well, actually, books are much more than what is learned from them. Books are about emotional connection. Books are about trying out ideas, being creative, being imaginative. Books are about building sort of your language and supporting your personal social development. And books are about meaningful, safe contexts. So it got me thinking about my journey with books, because when we kind of become very focused on what is learned from books, we have to sort of ask ourselves some questions really. So if you think back to your journey with books, you will all have had really personal journeys with books through your life. Okay, so for me, age 4, one of my favourites, Renee Cloaks' Bedtime book. And if you're a hoarder like me, I am sure you have got books like this in your home from when you were a small child. And I have memories of my mum, you know, a single mum. I was 4 years old in the 80s, and she was taking me to the library. I'd get my 4 books out. And then when I had my son, he was 6 weeks old, I went and got him a library card, and they looked at me like I was crazy, going and getting a 6-week-old baby a library card. But books are so important. So then we grow and we have books in our lives, and perhaps we study. And when I show you this book, I want to seriously see some people sending me some love for this book. Then perhaps like me, you became a nursery nurse, and you start studying Mary Sheridan. Come on, someone give me some love for Mary Sheridan. Can't just be me, who's a huge fan of Mary Sheridan's work on child development. And so much of what I know about children is what I studied as a nursery nurse, and what I got from this book, From Birth to 5 Years, which actually I think is really fitting that now we're developing Birth to 5 Matters. Yes, thank you. I'm sure that's Kerry there. Yes, so we've got, you know, it's no coincidence, is it? You know, we've got From Birth to 5 Years, and currently we're working on Birth to 5 Matters. So as a student, really great book. And then there are books that are given to you as gifts. So this one here, which I've been sharing with my children really recently in reception, this book here actually is really special to me, because this was a book I was given in 1993 by a head teacher. This was a head teacher, and I'd been an NNEB student, so I must have only been 16, 17. I'd spent my first year in quite a tough school as an NNEB student, and at the end of my year, she gave me this book, saying, "With love, Elaine, and all the best for the future from Jackie," and that was from 1993. And the fact that that is still a book that now I'm sharing and reading to my children all the time, it just shows you the power of books and the power of connection. And do you know what? I don't know about any of you, but when I was a student, I didn't have any money, okay? So, but I had this passion for books. You know, we didn't have Amazon back then, did we? I don't think we even had the internet, actually. So I would go to the library that my mum took me to as a child, and I would go to the library sale, and I would buy tons of books for 20 pence, 30 pence each. Has anyone else ever bought a withdrawn book? Come on, tell me it's not just me out there who buys withdrawn books back in the day. And this is one that I bought, actually. Changes, Pat Hutchins. You can see it's a library book, because it's got this sticker on it, and it's got the famous withdrawn inside it. And so I probably paid about 30p for this book. And it really is a book that I hope to share with you in another session. It's a really brilliant, simple picture book. And I think, again, with all the talk of learning from books, we mustn't forget the power of picture books, and especially with a focus on phonics that's going on. There are so many books, like, let me reach up to my shelf. I have got it. Books like this. Rose's Walk. When you read Rose's Walk, for example, the words in Rose's Walk tell you one story, but actually the pictures tell you a much bigger story, a fantastic, humorous, brilliant, goody versus baddie kind of story. So again, this relentless focus on, you know, reading through decoding, reading from phonics, not looking at the pictures that we're having at the moment, is actually undoing great stuff. Things like this book do. Or this one here that's got no words in it at all. If you want to develop children's understanding, picture books are a fantastic way. And then I was lucky enough at 30 to have my son, who is now 15. Yes, I know, I'm nearly 45, I know, it's shocking. And actually, you know, my son, my husband is West Indian, so my son is mixed race. And actually that then gave me something more to think about, because actually as a parent of a mixed race child, how do I make sure that he is reading books where he sees himself reflected and where he sees his family reflected? So that's another challenge. So another session that I plan to do. If you like this one, you might say, Elaine, please no more, go away. But if you like the Mrs. B's Early Years Book Club, another plan I might have is to really focus on diversity in books and looking at anti-racism and how we can make sure that we represent all of our children. Something that there are so many amazing people out there right now talking about. People like Liz Pemberton, the Black Nursery Manager, please give her a follow. Laura Henry Elaine, the brilliant David Kahn, who I'm hoping to get on here with his book of Umar. Who else am I thinking about? Aaron Bradbury with his book about the two mums. You know, how do we make sure that when we read children books, that the children we care for, how do we make sure that actually they see themselves in those books? So for my son, as you know, a child of mixed heritage, it was really important. So this is one of his favourites as a little baby, Baby Bright. And the reason I love this one so much was because of the images that were in it. It's probably not very good to hold it up to you here. Really important images. But also at the end, the fact it had a mirror in it where he could see himself. And you can see actually it's still a little bit dribbly 15 years later. So, as a parent, as a teacher, and as an educator, we need to all think about this, guys. You need to be really looking through your book boxes and thinking, actually, do these books in here reflect my children? Do they reflect my families? And if you're like me and you work in a school which is mainly in a white area, it's even more important. How do we make sure that we have that diversity? So, books have been a really important part of my life, and they still are. And anyone who is currently watching Netflix, oh my goodness, I actually forgot I even had this book. It's still got the sticker on it, it's pristine. I've just watched this series and actually forgot I even owned this book. And I think I might read it now. If you haven't watched it on Netflix yet, you do need to watch it. So, I'm just trying to sort of show you the journey with books I've had through my life. And I think at the moment we're all working flat out, we're all working really hard, and things are really tough. So we just need to lose ourselves in a book. I'm also a huge fan of audiobooks. BBC Sound has amazing books, and one of my favourites on there, and I always get the name wrong, is something about a boy, a horse, a fox and a mole. If you haven't listened to that, it's absolutely phenomenal, and it just makes you so grateful and humbled. And my final book I'm going to show you before I actually get into the real thing of what we're doing today, this book is currently changing my life. Bought for me by a really amazing friend, Feel Better in 5. This book is really helping me. Those of you who know me will know that I work really hard. I teach, I do training, I do things like this, I do lots of social media stuff. I've got a son, I've got a husband, I've got a house. Life is kind of really full on, and sometimes we can kind of get lost in it. So this book at the moment is really, really helping me, and it's helping me to get myself better and feeling better mentally, emotionally, and hopefully losing some weight. I've even started skipping every morning for 10 minutes. So, I'm just trying to share with you the power of books. So, let me come on to then the sort of main thrust of today and what I want to talk to you about. Keeping on the time, I'm not going to keep you too long because I don't know, it's Monday and we're all tired and we're probably ready for a glass of something. I can't have chocolate. I've actually given up chocolate this month, so wish me luck with that. I'm doing it for charity. I want to share with you a book that I use in my class, and it's a real firm favourite. And I would say that, do you know what, over the years, and I would admit even in recent years, there have been times when story time has kind of disappeared out of my day because it's just such a busy time of day and we're tidying up and we're getting coats on, and we don't always have time to fit in that story. And that is something that I'm really, really committed to, and I've really made a change there to make sure that every day we have a story. And it's not just a story I just grab out of the box. It's a story that I've really thought about, because I think that sometimes, a really important message I want to share with you is that when we're sharing stories with children, it's really important that we know the stories and we're familiar with the stories, so we kind of know how to take them. So today's book is, I'm going to show you, one of my favourites. Great book for early maths, 10 Black Dots. I don't know if anyone has seen this book. It's fantastic. I love this book. It is so versatile, it is so open-ended, and it just gets children thinking and talking about mathematics. So, for anyone who wants to know more about maths, The NCETM, you can look up, that's the NCETM, identify 3 big ideas in early maths in terms of number. They talk about cardinality in counting, which basically means, you understand the how manyness of number. They talk about comparison of number, which means knowing about numbers being more or less and how they fit together. And they talk about composition of number. I had to think about that one. Composition of number. And composition of number is all about knowing that numbers fit together to make other numbers. This book helps you to develop all of those ideas. Now, I'm not going to read it to you now, but what I would say is any books that I show you, definitely check them out on YouTube, because normally on YouTube you can find people reading them aloud. So before you spend your money, you can actually make sure that actually, you do like the book. So 10 Black Dots by Donald Cruz. I think it's probably quite an old book, but the question on the back is a great question. What can you do with 10 black dots? Really simple question. And I'll show you a few of the pages from inside this book. And I think you'll see why I like it so much. It's really, really, really simple. So it goes through and it's kind of like, 1 dot can make a sun or a moon when the day is nearly done. So you've got the rhyming aspect. And then you obviously move on to 2. So 2 dots can make the eyes of a fox or the eyes of keys that open locks. So straight away, children are beginning to see 2 in a different way. So 2 can look like this, or it can look like that, and it's still 2. Okay, then it moves through, and I'm going to show you here. So you move on to 3, okay? I'm not going to read it all to you, don't worry. So 3 dots can make a snowman's face, or beads for stringing on a lace. Now straight away there, if we're thinking about composition of numbers, you can start to ask children really important questions like, well, look at that number 3. What can you see on that number 3? How can you see that? And they might say, I can see a triangle. Or they might say, I can see a 1, a 1 and a 1. So, okay, let's have a look over here then. So it's still 3, but how can we see that through? I can see a 2 and a 1. So you get into supertising, you're getting into composition of number and how numbers fit together. And the children are also seeing with each page 1 more dot getting added on. Now I'm not going to show you all of it, but I think there's, again, if we're looking here, where you've got 4 dots can make seeds from which flowers grow. If you look at those 4 and tell me, maybe put in the chat, if you're looking at those 4, how do you see them? What are the numbers that you see within those 4 dots? 1, 1, 1 and 1. If we look at the dots on the radio, if they know what a radio is, so another big discussion point there, it looks different, doesn't it? It's still 4, but it's actually a 3 and a 1. There's a different way of looking at numbers, and it goes through. And what I really like is when it gets to 5, you start to see things like this. And all the time you've got vocabulary like portholes. They might not know what a porthole is, so you can have those discussions with them, which I think are great. But again, if you say to them, okay, what can you see there? I see a 3 and a 2. And you start to get into then basic number bonds, back off 3 and 2. That makes 5. Or you can line 5 up in a row. And it goes all the way through to 10. And it's a really, really simple book, really easy to pick up and read. It's rhyming as well. But then at the end, what's brilliant is you start to get into this kind of idea of comparison and the pattern of numbers and how the numbers grow. And this is a really important concept to understand, the fact that numbers grow, kind of like a staircase. And if any of you use number blocks, they're great for showing this too, and the idea of numbers growing. So there's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of discussions that you can have with this book. And then it goes over the page. And then actually when you get to this page, it's such a clever design, because what you start getting into is this kind of idea of numbers that once you get past 5, every number is 5 and a something. So 6 is a 5 and a 1, a 5 and a 2, a 5 and a 3, a 5 and a 4, a 5 and a 5. So you're starting to really reinforce that idea about how numbers grow, about how numbers get bigger and the pattern of number. So a really, really great book. And then from there, I used this as one of my recorded lessons for the children. I read it. Also, as we were reading it, I kept getting them to remember what had come before. So it's really great for memory games, a bit like I went shopping, really. But then also it's what you can do with it from there. So my children, for the home activity linked to this, it was, what can you make with 10 black dots? And they made really brilliant pictures with different numbers of dots. They made all sorts of things. And then I used those pictures to make our own version of 10 black dots by Owl's class, obviously not by Donald Cruz. So, you know, it's how this kind of book can inspire children to go off and do something different. You could also link this again to if you're doing, I mean, anyone who knows me will know that I'm very passionate about play-based learning and child-led learning, and I'm very passionate about in-the-moment learning. So if you came to visit me in my school, you wouldn't see lots of, well, you wouldn't see any kind of focused, you know, I wouldn't be saying, right, Johnny, Sarah, Philip, come and sit here, let's do your 10 black dots picture. That's not how we operate. But with a book like this, you light the spark and the children run with it. So if you're doing things like transient art, for example, you know, using pebbles, or if you're in the garden, you might use tyres or hoops to explore what things can you make, pretending they're your black dots. So a really, really simple picture book that I think is great and would really, really recommend, especially I think in reception where you're looking at some of those really, really core number concepts. So, you know, it's important to make sure you know what you're reading. I personally, I know there was some guidance from the EEF that came out that talked about planning questions for every page. Personally, I'm not really one for that, because I think if you keep questioning on every page, you really lose the flow of the story and you lose the flow of the book. You want to keep it kind of natural, you know, you don't want to keep stopping all the time and asking questions, or you'll lose that thread, you know, you'll lose exactly what Cozy were talking about, which is that kind of memory that you make because you're feeling so interested, inspired and cozy and comfortable. So there's lots of things you could do. You could photograph the pages, you could print them and do them big and have the children just sit and look and talk about them, or you could have them out with things like Numicon pegs, and if you had this big and laminated with some Numicon pegs, they could map the Numicon pegs and then count how many all together. Lots and lots and lots. You could cover some up and do some taking away. Loads of stuff you could do. Really, really great book. So that's my first recommendation to you. What I would also say is that, you know, although it's great to use books that have got a real maths focus like this one, so many stories we read with children have got maths opportunities within them. We don't always see them. But for example, another one of my favourites is one of my sons, actually grown up one of his favourites. Love this, love this, love this, love this. Full of love. Fantastic book. Now, do you know what? It's not actually written to be a mathematical book like this one. But actually, when you're in it and you're talking about things being full, you know, and a fish tank that's full of fish. I mean, even that page there, if you look at that, you think of the discussions you could be having with children there around colour and pattern and shapes. Or Gran in this one, Gran's got a big tin of sweets. And then, it's my favourite page, especially having a husband who's a very good West Indian cook, you have all this delicious food out on the table. And you can just talk about feeling full up. And when you have a big meal on the table and what you're going to eat. And so actually, yes, books about maths are great. But actually really be thinking about other books you read to the children. And the power of books like this are actually children connect to the family, they feel comfortable, you know, they can relate to the family, but also it's putting maths into a really clear context for them. You know, lots of relatives coming around, you know, a big dinner table like we've got here with lots of family members. We talk about how people come to your house for dinner, hopefully after lockdown a lot more than what we've got at the moment. So, you know, when you're reading books to children, really be thinking about the mathematics potential that is inside them. And it might not be that they're necessarily strictly maths books. One more I was going to show you, if I can find it, is... Oh, where has it gone? Here we are. The Story of Mr. Gumpy's Outing. Again, you wouldn't think it's mathematical, but when you read this, every time you've got more and more people getting on the boat. So you can kind of be reinforcing that, you know, oh, here comes another one. Now we've got one more. And again, you're putting it into the context of a story. So I would love to know, if you found any of that useful this evening. I would love to know if you would like to hear any more from me, if you'd like me to do another one of these Mrs. B's Early Years Book Clubs next week. I would love to know if there's anything at all. I mean, I think so far what I'm thinking about is if people are interested, I'm thinking about doing some stuff around kind of some early maths as I have today, thinking about diversity and representation of children, thinking about professionally, you know, books to help you. We've talked a lot there. I talked about my journey with books. So actually, you know, what books can I recommend to you to help you with your journey, whether it's Anna F. Graves' book or my wonderful friend Catherine Solly's book or Julie Fisher's book. You know, are there any books that you'd like me to talk to you about? Lots of things to think about, really. So it's my first Instagram Live. I really hope that you have enjoyed it. I haven't really known what I was doing, but and I'm also really hoping if people do want more, that I can maybe get some guests on. I would love Liz Pemberton to come on and talk about sort of representation in books. I would love maybe to get some of my favourite other authors on here of books, you know, books that have really inspired me in my work. So yeah, that's what I was going to say, really. And just two final recommendations for websites I'd like to tell you about before I let you go and enjoy the rest of your evening. If you would like to know about more about early years maths, there's a great website which I'm actually involved with, so I'm probably slightly biased. If you Google earlymaths.org, that is the early childhood maths group that I'm involved with. And if you go on to earlymaths.org, there's a section called Guidance, and it's called Building Firm Foundations in Mathematics. And within that guidance, you can download ideas to help you plan mathematics for children. Sort of, I think it's sort of like birth to 3 and 3 and 4, or different ages. And within that, there actually are recommendations for really good math storybooks. So things like 10 Black Dots will be in there. So if you want to have a look at the earlymaths.org, and if you go to the guidance section and the Building Firm Foundation section, you will find some PDFs that will give you some ideas. Another fantastic website that I absolutely adore is Ericsson Early Maths. Look that one up if you can. It's a great website. It's over in America. It's completely free. You can sign up for free. You can do CPD around early maths. But what I like about it, and where I think it's a bit ahead of the game than perhaps some of the websites in England are, is the books they promote on there are really, really diverse. So if you're looking for books, I mean, obviously they're going to be more American titles, but if you're looking for books that have got much more sort of diversity in terms of characters and sort of content, that is a really great website, the Ericsson Early Maths. Something else I also love about that website is the huge amount of free downloads that they have, including things like cards that have got numbers on, or numbers of fingers for children to recognise, like super ties. And what's great about that as well is that the fingers on the cards aren't all white fingers. You know, so again, it's a really good website for helping you to really think about diversity within your resources and within what you're offering to children. So lots to think about. The reaction's been great, so thank you very much. So with that in mind, I will come back next week, same time, Monday, 7 o'clock, for Mrs. B's Early Years Book Club. I'll stay for a minute for any more comments, but thank you so much for coming. You know, it's my first little step out into Instagram, and Liz, if she's still here, will tell you that I've been sending her voice notes and Aaron saying, "Help, what do I do, Aunt Hannah?" But yeah, you know what? What is life without an adventure? So please follow KU Official on Insta. Please help me, because I really want to build up the KU following on Insta. It's massive on Facebook. It's getting bigger on Twitter. Insta's a bit of a whole new world to me. So if you can find any way to please help me to get word out, I would love that. That'd be brilliant. So I've been Mrs. B. I've been Elaine Bennett. It's been my book club. And have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful evening.